kid was to always set up my action figures and use my crayons to try and draw what I saw, and that's all I did all through high school. Those black sketchbooks with the hardcover, I must have like 20 of those filled just from my high school study halls. And then from there, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I went to college, so I went to Kutztown and did a more like a related arts, which was a little bit of everything, and it just wasn't for me. One day my father came home and told me about the Joe Kubert School. Joe Kubert was a comic book artist in the 60s. There's a comic called Sergeant Rock, which he made very popular. It's a World War II kind
That's
of...
my favorite comic.
Yeah?
Yeah,
That was
absolutely.
Joe Kubert.
No kidding.
Next
Didn't
year
know
it's
that.
they're turning into a
I was
movie.
just gonna tell you before we were talking, like, I used to read Sergeant Rock as a brothers from a different mother.
Yeah, really.
So,
That's so funny, I didn't know
Put your
that.
glasses on. Yeah.
so
Wonder Twins.
actually Sergeant Rock, they're going to turn it into a movie for next
No
year.
kidding.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, Sergeant Rock was my comic as a kid.
And it's a 3-year program. When you first start, they give you a little bit of everything, including animation, so you can decide what direction you want to go in. I really love comics, which I actually didn't get into until about high school, which was when Image Comics came out. There was a character called Spawn, who's still pretty popular today.
Awesome.
Todd McFarlane, I mean, he is probably my idol when it comes to comics. And when Wolverine, the premiere, came out, they premiered it in Arizona, which is where his office is located. My sister-in-law was able to set up a meeting, and I actually got to meet my idol and have him review my portfolio, which, you know, it was incredible. It was supposed to be a 10-minute meeting with him, and then I would take a tour of his facility and meet with people, and that someone else was going to review my portfolio from his staff. But it turned into a 10-minute tour and 2.5 hours with Todd. I mean, he treated me like he's known me for 20 years. It was awesome because he was very down to earth. Not what I expected with someone with that kind of popularity in the comic biz, because usually a lot of people, when they know they're talented, they get that chip on their shoulder, but he was the one who got me into digital art. He demonstrated, actually he has the exact same screen. I came home and I was like, I gotta get one of those, because in that 2 hours he was showing me tips and tricks and stuff in Photoshop that would have taken hours to do on paper, but you were doing them in less than 10 minutes on the screen. So I brought in a few different things. As you can see, these are more of my recent pieces. These are all done in Photoshop on the screen. And then I brought in some of my older stuff, which is my comic book pages and stuff that he actually took a look at. This is a portfolio of my characters that I'm creating for my own book. When I was in school, one of the projects was to come up with a character, and you were going to use that character for every class, for writing, for drawing, for everything. It was like pretty much like you were going to market yourself out. And Pinpoint was my first character I ever came up with. It's gone through a lot of revamping since then, and that was I graduated in '98, and I'm finally starting to do the first book. I brought along the ash can, which I just had printed last week, just came out. It's just an 8-page preview of what's to come out for the first book, which, if things go well, should be released in the spring. Comic books is not an easy market to get into. You have to love it and want to do it. You will spend most of your time drawing. I don't know what TV is other than Disney Channel with my kids. I literally wake up and just draw all day long. For me, there is really nothing else. I mean, yes, I do have some favorite shows, but I have NCIS as DVD collection.
Yeah.
You know, I don't watch it when it's on. To do something like this, like I said, you really need to want to do it. You got to have a love for it, and you have to be open to criticism. Because you're gonna take your portfolio out and you're gonna go to the comic book conventions and you're gonna sit down with other artists and to be honest with you, the best time to hit them up is in the beginning of the convention. Because by the end of the convention, they've been there 3 days listening to people that think they're great or people that will just tear them apart because everybody has their favorites. No piece of artwork is ever perfect. I mean, you guys look at this and say, wow, and I look at this and I can point out 20 mistakes in one of them, you know. If I was to sit here and get these to the point that I saw it in my head, I would never be done. I mean, you can't, you gotta know when to draw a line. This was actually a commission job. Somebody had asked me to do this for their big Spider-Man fan. I had done one for him, wow, it's already 12 years.
Wow.
But I had done it by hand on paper with watercolor, the original one. It was a Spider-Man versus Doc Ock. And now he has a son, and he told me that he uses that original piece for story time with his son before they go to bed. Instead of reading him a story, he has his son look at the picture and tell him a story based on the picture. And I guess they ran out of ideas because he came back and said, we need something new to work with. So he made a suggestion of Sandman versus Spider-Man, but then he's like, if you don't feel like doing Sandman, you can throw in Venom or do Wolverine and all these. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go all out and put them all in for him. That way he can have any kind of story he wants to.
Wow.
Now my style is very simple and very clean. A lot of guys will do a lot of detail, a lot of cross-hatching. I like to usually save that for the coloring and the shadowing. With Photoshop, you can get so many different techniques and what's the word I'm looking for? Textures, as you can see in the sand. I mean, these are all just different Photoshop brushes to get the effect that you're looking for, rather than trying to draw all that with black and white. So you'll see, I only do black when I need extreme shadows. Or in the case of the Tron cycle, I mean, it's a black cycle to start with. So that one I actually worked backwards and made the background black and added the white, added all the blue and the highlights on top of it. So this one was my first piece that I ever actually framed for myself. I don't
just
usually
want to print on the metallic paper?
Yes. Oh, yeah, I can. It looks very vibrant. Dan's camera has what they call chrome. It's a metallic paper, so that no matter what the lighting is when it hits, you can have a candle sitting here, and the metallic paper actually carries the light across. So even in candlelight, you'll be able to see the whole picture. And when I went up there for the first time to have some stuff printed, they had, I want to say it's a peacock done on their wall, and the colors in it was just amazing to me. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to give it a try. A little bit more expensive, but it's not too bad. And I just love the way it came out. So this one's on it, that one's on it. Like almost everything I print now that has full color like that, I will do it on the chrome paper. Feel free to browse through the portfolios. I'll be doing some demonstrations. I'll show you my technique. There's a program, I usually use 2 programs as my main ones. I do what's called Manga Studio Pro. It is designed basically for doing comic books. You can do a comic book start to finish all the way up from pencils to lettering. But I usually use it for the pencils and the inks. And then what I'll do is I'll export it and open it up in Photoshop, because Photoshop has tremendous control for when you're doing your coloring. As you can see, the coloring on the light cycle there. But I also have my iPad going with just a little slideshow of everything. Well, the most interesting pieces that I've done in the past 10 years. For 10 years, I was also a graphic designer in-house, doing advertisements and business cards, and it was for, you'll see a lot of industrial equipment, because that's the company I worked for. I was in-house, so it was whatever they wanted. They were a filter company. Not the most exciting thing to be doing, but when they let me go about 1.5 years ago, I figured this was my chance to follow my dream and kind of like get my story out there. So hopefully, things go well, it'll take off. Like I said, in the spring, in November, I will be at the Allentown Comic Con, handing out posters and signing things and selling, hopefully selling my art. What's that?
Where's it?
What? New York.
Where?
No, there's one now.
Oh, it was Allentown.
Almost every city has their own little
Really?
Comic Con, just to,
Does it cost money?
I don't know.
Where is it?
I want to say it's
Can we look this up?
between $5 and $10 to get in.
Where,
The main
you know
one
where
is
it's
so
at?
expensive.
What's that?
You know where it's at?
Do you know where Merchant Square is? Lehigh- you know Lehigh Street?
Hidden wall.
Okay, do you know where, it used to be the block, yeah, I guess it's still Blockbuster, that one is it. You know where the Parkway bowling alley is? On the flip side?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, if you go at that light to go back there, you just go straight across.